Hello, it's Jane here. For this class you'll need 2 blankets, squishy or firm, these are nice and soft, it doesn't matter. And put one of the blankets underneath your sitting bones as you sit, either cross-legged or with your legs out straight. And then just move around until you're comfortable, just get any niggles out of the way so that you can sit still for a little while. And then take a nice big inhale, float those arms over the head, bring the palms together. As you exhale, close the eyes and then just bring the palms down into the centre of your chest, around the heart level. Today we are going to focus on some heart opening poses that help release any tension in the back, the chest, in the lungs, the shoulders. And as Valentine's Day is approaching, we're going to give ourselves some self-love. So just settle in. Maybe you can feel your heart beating for you. Maybe you can feel a pulse point somewhere. Just get acquainted with yourself. Don't try to change anything. Just notice how you're feeling right now. And then just take some nice, easy, deep breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. Calming the central nervous system, preparing yourself for a smooth, easy flow where we'll stay in the poses for a little while. And then just let the hands rest back on the knees or the thighs. As you inhale once again, float the arms over the head. As you exhale, open the eyes, take the hands down to the floor and lean over into your right palm. So the left arm lifts up, keeping the elbows soft. Just take a few breaths, leaning over to that side and then switch sides. And then we'll twist, take the right hand behind the back, left hand to that right knee. Nice soft twist, swapping sides, so we're not staying for too long. We're just keeping things nice and easy. And then we're going to give ourselves a big hug. Inhale, sweep the arms over the head. Wrap one arm underneath the other. Take the hands onto the shoulders. And you're going to give yourself a nice hug. We might be missing out on hugs at the moment, but there's nothing to stop you giving yourself a big hug. And we still get all those benefits that hugs bring, whether you give yourself a hug or whether it's somebody else. So feel nurtured, feel cared for, feel loved. And just taking a note which arms underneath. We're going to swap sides. So inhale, take the arms over the head. And as you exhale, take the opposite arm underneath and another big hug. And maybe this time, as you give yourself a hug, maybe visualize somebody that you'd love to give a big hug to today. Maybe you're missing out on those hugs. See if you can picture that person in your mind. See if you can feel that hug. And just send that hug out to them. And get ready to inhale and just release. Exhale, hands back down to the knees or the thighs. We're going to do some thymus tapping with the index finger and middle finger. And we're just going to tap along the collarbone, just nice and gently. Just see if we can stimulate that thymus gland. And then just swap with the opposite hand, same fingers, just tapping the collarbone area. And rest the hands back on the knees or the thighs. And then take one hand just above the chest, one hand on the belly. And feel your breath now. As you inhale, feel the breath expand into your hands. And as you exhale, feel it soften. Once again, feel calmed and safe and loved. And then we're going to use one of the blankets to put under the knees as we come into our tabletop pose. So it's quite nice if the floor is hard to have something soft underneath. And we're going to put the other blanket at the end of the mat. And we're going to take our first pose, which is called Melting Heart. So we tuck the toes under, keep the hips stacked over the knees, and slowly walk the hands forward until you can keep a nice position for the neck. So you might want to put your head over to one side. And then we're going to take the palms together, and then we're going to let the palms just rest on our backs. And if we tuck the toes under, we're going to give the feet a nice stretch too. If you feel any pain in the neck area, in the shoulders, then just go into a child's pose where you soften the hips down to the heels. This helps to open up the thoracic area of the spine, open up the shoulders, the upper back. So breathe into all the spaces where you feel that stretch now. And as we come into these longer held pose, remembering that we shouldn't ever experience any pain, but we might feel its sensations. They might feel a little intense. So making sure that we never cross that barrier between intensity and edge, using the breath as the guide. If we can't get a full easy breath, then we've gone too far. Now slowly take the palms down and come back to a tabletop position for cat-cow. So as you inhale, lower the belly to the ground, gaze forward. As you exhale, chin to chest, rounding that upper back. Just starting to wake up the spine, then tucking the toes under. And then we'll come to a downward dog, just to help us get into a dangle pose. So we're going to keep the knees bent. If this makes you feel dizzy, we can take the hands to the thighs, bring the head level with the heart. If you're happy to let the head dangle, see if you can interlace the hands behind the back and let the arms dangle overhead. Seeing if you can relax as much as possible here. This is an inversion with the head below the heart. So we do need to be careful if we've got high or low blood pressure, anything like glaucoma, anything that makes us feel dizzy, then we'll always come out of these inversions. They are very calming, very therapeutic if you are able to stay here. And just a couple more breaths before slowly releasing the hands to the ground, and then just bending the knees, easing your way to a comfortable seated position, placing a blanket underneath the sitting bones, and we're going to come to a butterfly pose. So we're going to take the soles of the feet together, and I'm just placing the feet on the blanket. I find it's quite nice, just lifts the feet up a little bit more, and then I'm just going to slowly drape my torso forward. And in this pose, I quite like to use my thumbs to massage the soles of the feet. If you've not tried it, it's just a nice thing to do. You probably feel your way around, just making slow, soft circles with the thumbs. And you might find areas that feel a bit stiff and tense. Or you might just want to settle here, breathing full and deep. Maybe you'll find yourself settling in, finding space in the muscles of the back as you breathe, inhaling, expanding the lungs, the ribs. And as you exhale, just letting it all settle and soften. And I'll just leave you here for a little while longer. On an inhale, just walk the hands back, slowly lift up, and then just stretch out the legs. Just see how you feel now. And then we're going to come into a straddle pose. So it's nice to sit with the feet outstretched on the wide side of the mat. So the feet are still on the mat. Taking your feet as wide as you can and then bringing them in a little, keeping the knees soft. Slowly walk the hands forward. So this pose is known either as straddle pose or dragonfly. And it's a nice one to stretch the backs of the legs, the groin area. And of course it's a forward fold, so the back as well. Now you might find in this pose that you can get quite a lot of movement from the beginning to the end as the breath becomes slower and deeper and the body starts to yield gently into this shape. Always playing that edge, making sure there's no pain by staying mindfully attentive to the breath. Remembering if you can't get a full deep breath, then that's the guide to move out of the pose slowly and gently. And the deeper you breathe, the deeper the benefits in this shape. And then taking one more deep breath here. And on an inhale, slowly starting to ease your way out. And then we're going to tuck one heel in and lean over to the side of the outstretched leg, taking the hand behind the back. So this is a lateral stretch, half dragonfly, lateral stretch. So imagine you can breathe into all those tiny little spaces between the ribs and the armpit to the hip. And it doesn't matter which side you've gone as long as we do both sides. Keeping that hand behind the head just for a little support for the neck. Remembering that deep breath as the guide. And one more deep breath here. And then on your next inhale, very gently come back to center, taking your time. And then we're just going to swap sides. So we'll bring the other heel in, stretch the other leg out to the side, and lean over to the side of the outstretched leg, again supporting the neck. Be mindful that the neck isn't under any strain. And keeping the knee of the outstretched leg soft, breathing into the armpits all the way down to the hip. Breathing into the spaces between the ribs. All the spaces you can feel opening up. And if we start to keep our face tense, sometimes it's nice just to smile, to remind yourself to keep the muscles of the face relaxed as well. One more deep, nourishing breath here. And then very slowly start to ease your way out of the pose using the support of the hand on the floor. And then just make your way back to hands and knees to our tabletop pose. And a few more cat-cows. So I like to tuck my toes under so it gives my soles of my feet an extra stretch. But if you find there's too much of a strain, then just take the tops of the feet down to the ground. And then we're going to come to lie down on our backs. So I'm making a little roll. If you haven't got a blanket, you can use a towel for this. And we're going to come into a nice thoracic spine opener. So with the other blanket, just placing it at the end of the mat for the head. Now we're going to slowly lower ourselves onto the roll, and we want that roll just around the T7, or if you're wearing a bra, it's around the bra strap. And we're just going to find a position for the feet. So we could take the soles of the feet together. We could stretch the legs out. We could bend the knees. I'm going to go for butterfly legs by taking the soles of the feet and just letting those legs drop out to the side. And we want to make sure there's no strain on the neck. So if you've got a little double chin, that's perfect. We don't want to be lifting the chin so it strains the neck. Now it looks as though I've got this blanket around the middle. That's because my top has ridden up a little. The blanket is across my bra strap, and that's where you'll get that thoracic release. An area where we can feel really tight and tense, especially if we've been hunched around a computer or standing for long periods of time. And it's really hard part of the spine to get into. When we settle and soften by breathing deeply with a gentle opening, it's nice to create that space for the lungs and the chest and of course the heart. And we'll stay here a little while longer. Taking one more big deep breath and then just taking the hands around the thighs, guiding the knees gently towards each other. And ever so carefully roll over to one side, remove that blanket, and then come back onto your back for our final pose before relaxation, which is our twist. And to prepare for our twist, we're going to take a cradle pose. So we'll bring the knees into the chest. You can hold on to the backs of the thighs or the shins, or if you'd like to, you can just take the hands over the head and just let the knees soften. And we're just creating space here. Again, just make sure you've got that double chin effect, so there's no strain on the neck. And just breathe nice and deep. And then you can stay here. Now we're going to get ready to twist over to one side in a moment. So take one more big deep breath here. And then you can take another big deep breath. Or as you inhale, bring your nose to your knees. And as you exhale, lower. And then we're going to just bring that other blanket around to bring the floor up to our level. Take the arms over the head, roll the knees over. I've chosen my left side, you might prefer your right. And then you might want to just put the blanket between the legs. If your legs are uncomfortable, then just making the bulk even bigger can give that little bit of support and lessen the intensity of the twist. So you choose what feels comfortable for you. This feels just right. It's early morning when I'm doing this practice, and my body's always a little stiffer in the morning. So just listen to your body. Choose a position that doesn't feel too much of a strain, but you've still got that nice stretch. And this is a really nourishing pose for the spine. And then as you inhale, bring the knees back to centre. And as you exhale, just swap over to the side, to the other side now. You might want to move the blanket, put it underneath the knees or between the knees. You might want to choose to look towards the ceiling or to the opposite direction. If you look in the opposite direction of your knees again, it will increase the intensity of the twist. So just make sure that your whole body feels comfortable now. This is our final pose as we settle ourselves now into Shavasana. So I suggest putting a blanket underneath the head. You might want to put a blanket over the body as well. You might want to bend your knees. You might want to try this legs in the air pose. You might want to take your hands underneath your low back. Or for Shavasana, you might even want to take it into legs up the wall pose. So you choose, and if you've got legs up the wall, there's a few options. You can take the legs a little bit wider. You can take the soles of the feet together. I'm just going to stay with this inverted position. So again, just to recap, you can take Shavasana lying on your back. You could take Shavasana with your hands under your low back to support the back and let the legs dangle in the air. Or if you're lucky enough to have that wall, you can take this final pose, this relaxation pose, with legs up the wall. And we reverse the circulation system, very calming and nurturing for the central nervous system. And then we can settle in. We can take care of ourselves. And just give ourselves some love, some nurturing, some time just to be here now, in this moment, with nothing to do, nowhere to be. And feel your next inhale just infuse every cell of your body with a sense of peace and calm. And as you exhale, just let go. Let the body soften into the floor. And as you next inhale, breathe in that calm once more. And as you exhale, let go of any thoughts, feelings, worries, sensations that are no longer helpful to you. Breathing in, breathing out. Nothing to do, nowhere to be, except in this body, with this breath, relaxing, restoring, refreshing the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I'll leave you here now for a few moments longer. Slowly now, we're going to think about moving out of this pose. So make any movements that you take very slow and small. If you're up the wall, bending the knees first, gently pushing away from the wall. And then rolling over to one side, making a pillow with your hands. And we'll stay in this fetal position just for a little while longer than normal. Just a message to the body that we are preparing to come back to the here and the now, to get ready to emerge into that world, moving. But for a moment, we'll just rest here, feeling the vibrational energy of our restoration gently trickling into every cell. And then we'll prepare to come back to our comfortable seated position by taking some weight into the hands and sitting on a blanket or a cushion, getting comfortable. And just feeling everything settle and soften. Feeling your breath. And as you inhale, slowly bring the palms together. As you exhale, bring the palms to rest in your heart center, thanking yourself for taking time to nurture your body, your soul.